Hey, what's up everybody? John Denton here. Listen, I just finished the Call of Duty Cold War campaign, Xbox Series X version, if you can call it that, more on that in a minute, and had some thoughts. Man, overall, it's 4 or 5 hours long. It's pretty short and sweet, and I did enjoy it. It ended quite strongly. I had some fun moments, some strange stuff going on there, and some decent missions. And those games are so established by now, the way they feel is so established that it's almost impossible not to enjoy them at a basic level. But saying that, you can see the impact that this year, this pandemic, got to choose my words carefully because I do want this video to be monetized. This year and everything that's been going on in this year has had on this game's development. There's no way that it hasn't. Bear in mind, this is a game made by over 1,000 people, and Treyarch was put back on a 2-year schedule after Call of Duty moved to 3-year schedules. They got put back on a 2-year and they lost a year of those 2 years basically. And you can tell when moving through this campaign, not only is it short, but you'll have these sort of beautiful, breathtaking sections, like the section in Vietnam towards the beginning of the game, the dramatic opening to the mission where you go and infiltrate that giant building in Russia. And then there'll be sections that really feel like they're out of a much, much cheaper game. I'm talking about suddenly you'll go into a room and it's just basic squares and rectangles. The detail suddenly disappears. There's a mission later on where you attack a giant mansion, and bizarrely, almost every single room within this mansion is suspiciously having work done, building work. Which means the development teams, the artists, didn't need to texture up the rooms. They didn't need to put any detail in there. They didn't need to put any proper furniture in there. You've just got pallets, random workstations, sort of buckets, and then the walls are just all looking like they're covered in sort of wallpaper paste. I get it. What a nightmare to have to deliver a product of this scale in this time frame anyway, when they've been cut back from 3 to 2 years. But also when everybody's working remotely. How must that mess up the pipeline? How must that mess up everything? This isn't a game that could get pushed back like a Halo Infinite or something like that. So I get it. However, it's hard not to feel a bit disappointed when you're used to and expecting something so lavish as Call of Duty. And then you go into a room and it looks like, I'm not talking about the detail or the resolution, I'm just talking about the environmental geometry, the design. Right, it looks like something that you get in the last few levels of a PS2 game. And I'm being serious now. It really is disappointing. Now, the gameplay and the feel holds up just about enough, and you'll move through and there'll be another section that was clearly had more time put into it. So it's not a massive, massive issue. And the gameplay does mix it up. There's some stealth sections which are, well, they work fine. You can tell the sections that had longer in development. You can tell the sections that didn't have to get rushed. Right, so there's enough of that to make the campaign enjoyable. And obviously, when you buy Call of Duty, there's a bunch of other stuff in there as well. And I'll talk about some of that in a minute. But I think we're going to see more and more of this, unfortunately, over the next 12 months and however long this shit goes on for. Especially with games that have established release dates. There's a point where a publisher can't just delay everything, can they? They can't just delay their entire portfolio until everything goes back to normal, because every day that project is in development is costing and burning through money. Burning through money on staff, burning through money on contractors, burning through money on buildings, on marketing budgets. Things will have to get... There's all sorts of reasons where you can't just push everything back. I get it. What situation does that leave us in? I'm kind of a little bit forgiving at the moment of these games that are coming out this winter that aren't really up to the level of polish or quality that we're used to. I'm talking about a Watch Dogs Legion as well, a game that I've been playing recently. It's come in a little hot, and a few games will come in a little hot. There's not a lot that can be done about it. You have to understand. At the same time, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War cost me 65 English pounds. That is a lot of fucking money. And so when you're paying that money, and if you're expected to pay that money for these next generation games, it's very, very difficult to stomach the fact that you're getting games of an inferior quality than you were getting a year ago, even if you can understand why. So this is going to be a very difficult situation. I do hope to see more reviews and more people pick up on this stuff. If you've been playing games long enough, you can see through stuff like this quite easily. Especially if you're playing games back in the sort of PS2 era where you'd get to the last 2 levels and they'd always be in a warehouse or they'd always be in a shipping dock. And that is because it's much easier for the environmental artist and everybody involved to just build those levels out, rather than having to do intricate detail or stuff with more curved corners. You're talking rectangles, boxes. Much easier, obviously. It makes sense. Back in the day, you could kind of forgive it a little bit more because they're making a game and they'd front load the game. Now it's a bit different. Not only are more people finishing the games that they're getting, there's always going to be evidence of these final levels on YouTube. Massive playthroughs from massive YouTubers that will have millions of views of these last levels. So that's why more detail needs to be put into these last levels. And also story's much more important than it was 20 years ago or something when we were playing PlayStation 2 games. So my overall thoughts on the campaign, like I said, I enjoyed it. There were some elements to the story which were quite clever. I liked the structure of having to go back and build evidence. I liked the choices. I liked the multiple endings. There's some trippy stuff in there which I really liked. And obviously it's a sequel to what's probably my favourite Call of Duty game. In the original Black Ops, certainly my favourite Call of Duty story. Mason, the numbers, all of that. So having a kind of game that's thematically very similar to that is enjoyable. And I was glad for the 5 odd hours that I put into it overall. But man, there were times where I was like, this is like fucking GoldenEye on the N64. All of these enemies with the same face, just running towards me, running around corners, not even noticing the bodies that are on the floor. This Call of Duty is not exactly a showcase for enemy AI, and it hasn't been. But when you're coming off Modern Warfare, which isn't a next-gen title, but 1, looks better, 2, plays better, has far more interesting AI and far more variety in terms of the scenes that it sets up. When you're clearly taking a step back from that, COVID or otherwise, you're fighting enemies that are running into walls, you're fighting enemies that, like I say, look all the same, you're fighting enemies that are dumb as posts. It's a difficult one to stomach when you're paying £65. I haven't put in enough time into multiplayer yet to really give my full thoughts, and you're going to get better and more complete thoughts from people who are really in the Call of Duty community than my ass with my fucking barely scraping a 1 KD. I'm not the man to listen to about the specifics and nuances of multiplayer, but at the same time, some of those maps are suffering from the same things as that campaign, suffering from very basic geometry. Obviously stuff is actually lifted from the campaign for the maps. Only 8 maps at launch as well. I will say the multiplayer feels fantastic, it sounds fantastic, it's about as crisp as it's ever been, and I'm not against the fact that it's been stripped back to a very basic Call of Duty. You know, the powers from the recent Black Ops games have gone, the class types. There is that wider open mode that's more in line with Battlefield. I don't think Call of Duty does that stuff as well as Battlefield. Obviously, Blackout mode's now been pretty much replaced entirely by Warzone, and that's in there as well. And there's zombies, which I'm hearing good things about, but I haven't played yet, but it has to be better than Spec Ops from Modern Warfare. But my overall point is, look out for this over the next 12 months. Look out for people who are covering games, your reviewers of choice, your people who you trust, especially as the price has gone up with these things, to call this stuff out. It can be called out with understanding, with empathy. I understand, I feel for the fucking team, the giant teams making this game. What a difficult situation, what an almost impossible situation. It's actually mad that the game got made and got put out, but at the same time it's still a full-priced boxed video game product. And when that game has Call of Duty on the marquee, you do expect a certain level of quality. Guys, let me know in the comments if you've noticed anything similar to this in this game or other games that have been released recently. I certainly noticed some sketchiness in Watch Dogs Legion, but that just might be standard Ubisoft jank. And let me know if you want to hear more thoughts on games like this from me. These are easy to just stick on a microphone and chat about my thoughts. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Let's build this gaming thing alongside the music thing. And thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one, alright? Peace!